what a ride this was, and I do want to say what I played was an early build. Things are subject to change, but I first want to start with the new Hunter exotic legs and Renegades Fortune's Favor. I've seen a lot talked about these all over X, Reddit, everywhere, and after playing with them, they have one clear use case that I see, and we can talk about what's really going on with them, what's true, what's not. Like in the Crucible, definitely not there. They're terrible there. It's 100% a PvE exotic. And also understand, I only had so much time. There was a lot that I wanted to get to. There was a lot to see, lots to test. There's a lot to tell you about, so some questions I don't have answers for, and that's okay. The exotic perk is Kismet. After landing a final blow while at full health or when out of combat for an extended period, your shields slowly recharge into an overshield. When you have an overshield, your weapons gain increased accuracy, stability, handling, and damage against combatants, and final blows will grant a short period of increased mobility once the overshield is depleted. So after not being in combat, you have full health, the timer starts. After 5 seconds, you start gaining your overshield, and once it starts, it takes about 8 seconds to fully generate. And when you have an overshield, even just a little bit, you get those bonuses. We'll come back to those. In the Crucible, while at full health, after not being in combat for about 15 seconds, the overshield starts to come up. Then, you ready for this? Wait for it. It takes about 40 seconds to get the full overshield from when it starts. That's just not happening. And even more so, when you take damage, it resets the timer to all of it. So another 15 seconds to get an overshield, 40 seconds to complete it. It's just not happening. It's the no-eyed mask when it comes to the Crucible. And once I get through the rest of what it does, it's going to shape up a little bit more. It's definitely a PvE exotic. Coming back to the perk, you also get an overshield when full health and land a final blow. So if it hasn't started yet, you can get it going, or let's say you're using a heal clip weapon. Your health's been chunked, get a kill, reload, get cure 2, it goes back up to full health, you get a final, then you get an overshield. So there's ways to speed it up. Or something like Red Death, right? You have no overshield, you're getting hit, getting chunked, you get a down, get some health back, get another down, get an overshield, get chipped, get another down, and so on. There's a little loop there. And in the Crucible, same deal. If you're at full health, get a final blow, you start that slow burn overshield coming in, 40 seconds. Next, once you have an overshield, weapons get increased accuracy, stability, handling, and damage against combatants. So obviously the accuracy, stability, handling, super tough with what I had the time that I had, but we can talk about the damage. Note though, this part of the perk will activate from any overshield source no matter how much overshield that you have. So, Repulsor Brace, or the fragment that gives you an overshield when your shields break, or simply standing behind a Bastion shield from a Titan. Say they pop that, get behind it, you get benefits. Any sliver of overshield, little bit or full, you get these benefits. And here's where I believe is the most important part. Damage-wise, while you have an overshield, your weapons get anywhere between 15 and 20% more damage. It was weird though. And we'll get down to the bottom of it on December 2nd. From what I gathered and tested, it makes sense. Special weapons, heavy weapons get 15% more damage, primaries get 20%. But a couple times heavies were getting 20%, primaries were getting 15%. So there's something going on there. There has to be something to it. But what I can confidently say, you get 15 or 20% more damage to your weapon when you have an overshield. And what's nice about that, this is for sure its own source of a damage increase, meaning it can stack. It will stack with surges. It will stack with maybe artifact things. It will stack with debuffs. And a little bit more on this in a moment. Now, in the Crucible, damage-wise, no damage increase. So there's that. It just simply doesn't work. So in the Crucible, no extra damage, a very slow overshield. You do get extra stability, handling, and accuracy with an overshield, but that's not worth it at all for how much time it takes to get an overshield. Otherwise, you're using things like possibly Repulsor Brace. It's just not happening. So that leaves it purely to PvE, and here's how I see this exotic being beneficial. Its use case, where its place is. First, as a solo player. I mean, using this exotic means when you're running to a new area, you're gonna have an overshield when you get there, or waiting for your shields to recover, kind of holding back for 5 seconds, you get an overshield. And you'll have an overshield for each new engagement area. With that, you're gonna have that extra 15 or 20% more damage on weapons, primary, special, heavy, your exotics, whatever. That's combining with the weapon perks themselves, and surges, and debuffs, and that's when it started to click for me once I kind of figured out what was going on. Damage scaling in Destiny is multiplicative, so let's say you're running a frenzy weapon, right? 15% more damage. You get an overshield, so on this primary, it's getting 20% more damage. That means your frenzy perk is doing 38% more damage. That's just frenzy, not one for all, not including any external factors. And also, I believe that if you use something like an incandescent weapon and you're spreading Scorch, the Scorch ticks also get the extra 15 or 20% more damage, and I'm going to test that when it comes out. So I do believe it does have use for solo play. And in team play, this thing could possibly be for damage phases. Get an overshield or get behind a Bastion shield, pop a tether, helping your team out, there's a debuff on the target, and stay with me. Remember, the damage in Destiny is multiplicative. The more sources that you have, the way higher the ceiling. So let's say you're using a bait and switch grenade launcher. You get that going, you're dealing 30% more damage. You go all in with a 3-time surge, so 22% more damage. Now you're sitting at 58.6% more. Well, since you have this exotic on with an overshield, and say for this particular weapon, it's giving 20% more damage. Now you're at 90% more damage, almost 2 times damage. And we still haven't counted something like Radiant. We haven't included the tether debuff. It's just on and on. So who knows, maybe down the line, this extra 15 or 20% from your rocket, GL, linear, whatever, is what a phase needs to help get past it. I played a good bit with these boots, and I think a lot of it was just understanding what they did. Sure, the overshield was great, especially in PvE versus the snipers. When they chip you, it just kind of eats the overshield, gets your health a little bit. But as I got going, I was like, okay, I have this weapon, it has 1 for all, 35% more damage, but this one's getting 20% more with the overshield, so now I'm doing 62% more damage with 1 for all, and just ripping through things a little bit easier and better. And the last part of the perk, Final Blows will grant a short period of increased mobility once the overshield is depleted. So once that overshield's gone, on screen you get the text that says, Hasty Retreat. For 5 seconds, you get increased mobility. Hard to test with the footage that I have and got. Not sure if it's really that useful. It felt more of like a flavor bonus than a real decision maker or difference maker. Probably not completely useless. Could be nice maybe when you're repositioning. Definitely not the reason to wear the boots, but where it does shine is those stacking damage scenarios. And as I went through, I wrote down notes. So these are some of my thoughts on it that I kind of lay out for you. Like, these weren't crazy, obviously, not meta breaking, but they were surprisingly consistent and started getting very real once you start layering your build and knowing what's going on. I didn't hate them once I figured out what the loop was for them, if that makes sense. Because they're not flashy, they're not wild, they're not radically changing how you play, just quietly adds more damage in every engagement that you get into, like little places where normally you wouldn't get a bonus. And then like collectively, like once you cross into a new area, that little bonus of an overshield after a heal, a red death proc, your full health, a little bonus with the overshield. That shield gets cracked, a little bonus to mobility. It's kind of global across almost everything. And of course the big part's the damage, but it's definitely like not a must use, I would say. Replace the big well-known exotics that people run in their builds. It just gives Hunter another style of damage exotic, and looking through them, it's something that Hunters usually just don't normally get. Usually Hunter damage boosts are tied to ability loops, survivability loops, or very specific skill triggered windows, or something like Bacchus, right? Bacchus is great. At a ×3 stack, 30% more damage, but you need kills. You need dodge energy. And with this exotic, it's just stay alive, get overshield one way or another, keep shooting, deal more damage. So once I have more time with it, there's still things that I want to pursue. Again, these are notes I had written down, just things that I couldn't test. Like, I think it's going to depend on how well that overshield uptime is in harder content, like with real enemy density, real fire team synergy. I want to see how it survives chip damage in those scenarios. Could it be a sleeper solo exotic for Grandmaster, stuff like that. And again, like while I was playing with it, I didn't mind it, wasn't terrible. Kind of started vibing with it once I knew how much damage it was doing and what I could do with it. Just kind of quietly slots into weapon builds. But again, this was an early build, things can change, and we'll test it again on December 2nd. But let me know down below, what do you think of these boots? How are they meant to be used? Like, do you see any raid damage utility, solo stuff? Or are they a dud? And if they're a dud, maybe they can buff the damage part to 20 or 25%. Who knows? If you're new here, remember to hit the subscribe button. And if you are subscribed, thank you so much for your support. Let's talk about these boots down below, and I have a lot more videos coming before December 2nd. Stay tuned to the channel. Until the next one, I am CoolGuy.